Well, concerns have been raised over the Invercargill City Council. They allow anyone identifying as female to use the female changing rooms at the public swimming pool. More than 100 people turned up at a meeting with council staff about the issue last week. And, well, there was a whiteboard in the public meeting room before the meeting started, before the council staff arrived to hear the concerns. It had the words written on it, "If you're born with a willy, you ain't no filly." Nothing like South Islanders to speak the biological truth. After the meeting, the Council Leisure and Recreation Manager said it didn't currently have a policy in place that directly addressed the use of changing spaces and gender, but the current practice was guided by the law and human rights, which states it's unlawful to discriminate based on sex, gender or sexual orientation. Well, problem there, because that's not true. Actually, the Human Rights Act doesn't use the word gender, and it doesn't cover gender identity or gender expression. So they're actually wrong there. But the pool policy is, quote, "all visitors to Splash Palace are free to use the changing area that matches their gender identity," end quote. So in today's episode, we speak to two of the women who are leading the charge on this issue on behalf of many families. Rachel, who was featured in the media report, and Terry. Let's meet them both. Well, I want to welcome Terry and Rachel to McBLOG. Good morning to you both.
Morning, Terry.
Now, well, it was, covered by the media. There's concerns about the possibility that biological men can come into female changing rooms, which I think many people are concerned about. Just very quickly, we sort of know the basic story, but how did you two get involved?
Well, we put out a message for people to come along and join our meeting. I've never met Rachel. This is the first day I've actually met her physically. I did hand her the microphone at the meeting, but that's about it, yeah.
Yeah, and I heard about the meeting through a friend who heard through a friend through a friend. So I didn't actually know the exact context of the meeting. Yeah. I just turned up trying to stay current in what's going on in the community. And I heard exactly what it was about as soon as I entered the doors. So I was fairly shocked and stoked that I was actually there for it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, the council, while they don't have an official policy, the policy is that if a biological male turns up and says they're identifying as female, they can come into the female changing room at the swimming pool. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. And that must be pretty horrifying for women to think about that possibility.
Yeah, we had quite a few emotions running high, and especially from people who've actually been abused as well, and how it affects them and how it's still affecting them. So just having those emotions and spoken to at the meeting, I feel that it gets the message across. This is how dangerous this could be.
And is the concern because it has happened already once or twice or before, or is it the possibility that it could happen?
It's the possibility, because when I actually spoke to the manager, I said, "What are you going to do?" And he said, "We can't do anything. We've got nothing in place."
Yeah, and I'm concerned that this policy is already currently running. And who has been into those changing areas while there are children around, women as well, but we have phones these days. No one is safe. My daughters aren't safe. Women aren't safe.
So what was the response of the meeting?
The manager from the pool was very quiet. The ICC, he was mainly the main speaker on their behalf
from the council,
from the council, but the actual crowd was irreparable, and we had parents, we had fathers, we had mothers, grandmothers, the works were there, and they were irreparable. They were so angry regarding this.
Okay. Was there anybody?
Well.
Was there anybody representing the trans community there?
No, there wasn't.
Okay, so, you know, there was the media coverage and in stuff of all places. So I would expect that you both got some blowback, especially considering you were featured in the article. Did you?
Do you know what? I haven't. No,
Great.
not personally. Not personally.
But we've had sort of online, it's always been different. It's that's been different for us, yeah.
So lots of people coming onto Facebook page and onto your personal pages?
No, mainly because I kind of try and block everybody out, but it's mainly people that they've connected it and sent it on to somebody else. Then it's that sort of roller coaster that happens once it goes out into the public eye, basically. Yeah.
So where to from here?
Well, I've got a meeting with a group of us, and so we started off. There's 5 wahinis that have actually the starting point, and we've got hopefully have a meeting with the council to arrange things. The consensus of the group, and I think Rachel can vouch for me on this one, is that they actually want to have a public meeting in a public place, like in a neutral ground, not on their ground. That's why we called the meeting where I called it, because the reason being is that when you go into the council building, you've got to sign in, they take a photo of you and all that stuff. So it's not necessarily about privacy, but we want to be heard, but we want to make sure that we have that freedom of that you were going into that place as well.
Okay.
Really.
And are you concerned about, possible protest, activist groups getting involved in this?
I think we've got a great community behind us. We don't know what they're interested in doing. We don't. We're not part of that crew. Do you know what I mean? So we don't know what they're going to do, to be quite honest. Yeah.
If it comes to that, and am I okay to say this, Terry? If it comes to that, I bring it on. I bring on a protest for them to hear more and more and more from the community, because they're making it very difficult to even give us a date, a time, even for the next public meeting. And yeah, we feel like we're not being heard and taken seriously. That's my personal perspective and feeling from council.
Yeah, and I mean, in fairness to the manager of the pool complex, they are caught in between a rock and a hard place, because there's kind of this unwritten law that you have to allow this to happen, and yet the community doesn't want it happening, not in public pools and not in schools. Rachel, your photo was part of the article, so I thought maybe you might have had a bit more blowback.
Nothing. I've had nothing, and I've been out in public all weekend. My kids play sport. No blowback. What
about compliments and encouragement and people standing with you?
Absolutely, that's all I've had. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like the Invercargill community might have their heads screwed on and might be able to speak up for other areas that haven't been so strong on this issue. Do you think there's just a bit more common sense in the water in Invercargill?
Well, I think that because with all that's happened and all the community that's surrounded us, we do want to say too, is that we want a safe place for everybody. Everybody included, and we just haven't got that. They sort of, when they sat there, it was like this humming and haaing, but no answers. And I just think there's too many grey areas. And like with the fathers, especially, and standing behind us, like they're just as mad. So yeah, that sensibility is coming. We want common sense. We keep asking, we keep saying in the meeting, but it's common sense. Why can't we use it? And I actually said, why can't you just say no? But I think it's due to the Human Rights Act, where it's been amended. That's what it's the legality of it all, because no one knows what's going to happen.
No.
Because it's not been tested before.
No. And that's part of the problem. And of course, that was the interesting thing about the Stuff article, is that the media tend to push this whole issue, and they actually gave it some fair coverage for what the community was protesting about. So that's actually a good thing. I mean, as a father, I don't want to send my daughters into a changing room if I know that there's a biological male also in that changing room, no matter how they're identifying it, like you say, it's common sense. So how can people get involved and support the stand that this important stand that you're making?
Well, at this present time, we seem to be sending it out to people that we know. So the advice that was given to me from somebody else was to tell 5, they tell 5, they tell 5. And so we weren't even sure who was going to come to the meeting. No one sent back, oh yeah, I'm turning up to the meeting. So on the actual day, there was no messages, nothing much on my messenger page, nothing that there were going to be anyone turning up. So I was just like, okay then, all right, well, if we've got to do this by ourselves, well, let's start the ball rolling here. But when we got there was no parking space around the building.
Wow.
The council had to walk through a sea of people, which I think, to be fair on them, would have been terrifying. We were told prior to the meeting that no media, if there was any media there, they were going to walk out. So they weren't even going to come into the meeting. And so that's what I'm saying, Rachel, we didn't say to Rachel, hey, look, go ahead, do what you want. We never whispered. Like I said, I passed her the microphone and she's just a concerned mama. That's what it is.
Yeah, I just ran away, wanted to shout it to everyone because I need everyone to keep their own kids safe, basically.
Yeah.
In regards to future meetings, like, could we put it on community pages? Are we allowed to do that?
Well, we did put it on a community page. And somehow it was taken down. I don't know what's happened, so there's some form of communication that there's certain pages that may not accept what we're doing. So they've taken it down, or the admin has said, no, we're not putting that up. Yeah. So they might see it for just a few minutes and then all of a sudden it's gone the following day, like what's happened in the past with lots of things. So we think that the form of communication is that we know people, tell 5, tell another 5, and then hopefully from there, like we had a lot of support people from Tuatapere, Waikaka, they came in to this meeting, and so in that sea of faces, I knew most of them basically.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great community uprising. Look, just one final question, and I need to ask this, is that the accusation towards you is that look, you're not showing love, you're being transphobic. If someone identifies that way, we should just accept it. What's your response to that?
Well, I'll respond first, if that's okay, Terry. Yeah. In the article, it stated, it's the same as back when they were doing a movement for the gays. And I was like, under what rock? Because the gays weren't trying to use the female changing areas, So that's pretty simple to me. And sorry, what was your question again? The claim that you're transphobic and that you need to show love and acceptance. I'm all love. I mean, I was brought up with that, accept everyone. But I don't accept people who don't use common sense in regards to the boundaries that we should have as our own gender and own sex. They're trying not to discriminate. Well, in my opinion, they're discriminating against our sex and our gender and our right to safety and privacy.
Okay.
Doesn't mean I don't love them.
No.
Well, one of my best friends is transgender. I've supported her all this time. I still call him him. I know that because I've known him for such a long time. And like we've had discussions because I said, I'm doing this and he's, I've got their support. And, I said, I made sure that I said, I'm not trying to harm anyone. You know that, you know me well. I want it to be safe for everybody. Because it's someone else's then trying to go, oh, okay, we'll get on that platform. And this is because people have their own intentions, but it's not my intentions personally.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Hey, Rachel and Terry, really appreciate your time. Thank you for making a stand. And it's good to hear the community is standing with you and speaking up for welfare and safety of families and of children. So go well, and we'll watch the story with interest. Thanks for your time on McBLOG.
Thank you so much. Ka kite anō.